The wind swept across the busy streets of Manhattan, carrying with it the scent of roasted nuts, exhaust fumes, and the urgent rhythm of a city always moving faster than its people. It was early morning, the kind of cold that bit at fingertips and turned breaths into smoky clouds. In the middle of this chaotic hum stood a little girl wrapped in a patchwork coat that was several sizes too big for her tiny frame. She clutched a small cardboard sign that read, "Anything helps. God bless." Her name was Lily, and though her shoes were worn and her cheeks pink from the cold, there was a brightness in her eyes that not even hardship had dimmed. Across the street, a large black SUV rolled to a stop in front of the towering glass entrance of Remington Industries, the empire of billionaire Charles Remington. Charles stepped out of the vehicle dressed in a navy suit, his shoes polished to a mirror shine. His reputation in the city was legendary, a man who could turn failing companies into gold mines, who had built his success from nothing but raw ambition and sleepless nights. To the world, he looked like a man who had everything, yet behind his eyes lived a loneliness he'd never admit. Charles barely noticed the sounds around him anymore. His mornings were a blur of meetings, calls, and decisions that affected thousands of people. As he walked toward the building, his assistant hurried beside him, listing off the day's agenda. But then something unexpected happened, something that would change the billionaire's life forever. A small voice called out, "Sir, sir, please." At first, Charles ignored it. People often approached him for money or favors, and his instinct was to keep walking. But the voice came again, this time more desperate. "Don't eat that, please don't." Charles stopped mid-stride. A sentence like that was strange enough to make anyone pause. He glanced around and saw the little girl, Lily, rushing toward him with her hair bouncing wildly, her sign nearly slipping from her hands. Before he could react, she grabbed the paper bag of breakfast he had just accepted from his driver and held it tightly against her chest. Charles frowned. "Hey, what are you doing? Please, don't eat it," she whispered, breathless. His assistant stepped forward, anger rising, but Charles lifted a hand to silence him. Something about the girl's trembling voice made him want to hear her out. "Why?" he asked. "What's wrong with it?" She swallowed hard, glancing nervously over her shoulder. I saw the man who handed it to your driver. He put something inside, something bad." Charles lifted an eyebrow. "You mean poison?" He almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Who would poison him? Why? But then again, wealth came with enemies, competitors, people who despised him. The girl nodded, her eyes wide with fear. "I saw him. He looked scared after he did it. Please, sir, I didn't want you to get hurt." Charles stared at her, trying to judge whether this was some scam or an incredible coincidence. But she looked too sincere, too frightened, too young to be lying with such conviction. "Show me," he said quietly. Lily carefully opened the bag. Inside was a kwas, ordinary in appearance. Yet as she lifted it, Charles noticed a faint discoloration along the seam, something powdery. Something off. His stomach tightened, a chill spread through him, not from the wind but from realization. He handed the bag to his driver. "Take this straight to the lab, now." The driver ran for the vehicle without hesitation. His assistant turned pale. "Sir, if what she said is true, we'll deal with it," Charles said, then knelt down to look Lily in the eyes. "How did you see all that? Were you watching the truck?" Lily hesitated before speaking. I sleep behind the bakery on 5th Street sometimes. They throw away bread at night. I was waiting there when I saw a man put the bag on your driver's seat. He kept looking around like he didn't want anyone to see, so I watched him. I saw him sprinkle something inside." Charles's throat tightened at her honesty. Something pulled at him, something he hadn't felt in years. Compassion. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily." She answered softly. "Well, Lily, you may have just saved my life." She shook her head quickly. "No, it was the right thing." Charles couldn't help but smile for the first time that morning. "Do you have somewhere safe to stay?" Lily looked down, her small fingers twisting the hem of her coat. "I stay wherever I can. I'm okay." But she wasn't okay. She was freezing, her little hands were trembling, and her face was far too pale. Charles stood and motioned for her to follow. "Come inside with me." Her eyes widened in fear. I don't think I'm allowed in there. You're with me," he said simply. Inside Remington Industries, heads turned as the billionaire walked through the marble lobby with a small beggar girl by his side. Whispers spread like wildfire, but Charles ignored every one of them. He brought her to his private lounge, a warm room with soft couches, fluffy blankets, and shelves full of books he rarely had time to read. He asked his staff to bring hot cocoa and fresh pastries, untampered ones, from the kitchen. As Lily drank the cocoa, warming slowly from the inside out, Charles watched her with a growing heaviness in his chest. How long had she been living like this? What had led her here? "What about your parents?" he asked gently. Lily's eyes dimmed. "My mom died last winter. She got sick. We couldn't pay for the medicine. My dad left years ago." She took another sip and stared at the cup. "I've been trying to take care of myself. I'm trying really hard." Charles felt a sting behind his eyes. He turned his face away for a moment, clearing his throat. "You've done more than try, Lily. You've survived, and today, you helped me survive too." Just then, his driver returned breathlessly with the test results. "Sir, it was poison, lethal dose." Lily's cup clattered onto the table. Charles exhaled sharply, his jaw tightening. Someone had actually tried to kill him, and a homeless child had saved his life. His security team burst into action, reviewing cameras, tracing the suspect, contacting police. But Charles stayed with Lily. She was the reason he was still alive. Hours passed. When Lily finally dozed off on the couch, wrapped in a warm blanket, Charles sat across from her, thinking. His world had always been built on deals, numbers, mergers, and power. But this small girl, frail, brave, and hungry, had reminded him of something money could never buy: humanity. When she woke, Charles said, "Lily, how would you feel about staying somewhere safe tonight? Maybe a real room, a warm bed?" She blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. "You mean, like a hotel?" He chuckled softly. "Better, my home. You'd have your own room, your own clothes, your own meals. Only if you want to, of course." Lily didn't answer at first. She looked scared, not of him, but of Hope. Hope had betrayed her too many times before. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you help me? I'm nobody. You're the reason I'm alive." Charles answered, "That makes you somebody very important." Tears filled her eyes. "I just didn't want you to get hurt. And now," Charles said, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder, "I want to make sure you don't get hurt either." That night, Lily stepped into Charles Remington's penthouse, a place she never could have imagined in her wildest dreams. The walls glowed softly with warm lights, the ceilings soared high above her, and the floors were so clean she hesitated to take a single step inside. Charles's housekeeper, Mrs. Adler, rushed over with a smile. "Oh goodness, look at you. Come, sweetheart, let's get you a bath and some warm clothes." Lily followed shyly, her heart pounding. She felt like she had stepped into another world. While she bathed, Charles stood in the hallway, lost in thought. He wasn't sure what his life would look like tomorrow. He didn't know how the investigation would end or what dangers still lingered. But he did know one thing: Lily was now under his protection. When Lily emerged in a soft pink sweater and warm leggings, Charles almost didn't recognize her. She looked like any other little girl. Safe, clean, beautiful. Mrs. Adler whispered, "She's precious. She is." Charles said quietly. Lily ate dinner at her real table that night. She tasted mashed potatoes and chicken soup as if they were magic. Afterward, Charles walked her to the guest bedroom, now her room. She paused at the doorway. "Mr. Remington, yes, if you ever need help again, I'll protect you, just like today." Charles knelt down so he could look her in the eyes. "And I'll protect you too, Lily, from now on. You're not alone anymore." As she drifted off to sleep under soft blankets, Charles stood in the doorway. overwhelmed by how much one small child had changed his world in a single day. Weeks passed. The police arrested the man responsible for the attempt on Charles's life, a disgruntled former executive with a dangerous grudge. Charles testified in court, but the entire time, he felt calm knowing Lily was waiting for him at home. With each passing day, Lily transformed. She gained weight, her cheeks filled with color, her laughter became frequent and bright. She started attending school, making friends, and reading books from Charles's shelves. She brought back joy into a penthouse that had long been silent. One evening, months later, Charles sat beside her as she worked on her homework. She paused and looked up at him suddenly. Do you think I could stay with you forever? The question struck him deep in the heart. He had never had children, never had a family, but Lily felt like both. Yes, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I'd like that very much. Her smile was the brightest thing he had ever seen. And from that night forward, Charles Remington was no longer just a billionaire. He was a father, a guardian, a man who had been saved not just from death, but from a life without love. Whenever people asked him about his miraculous survival, Charles would always say the same thing. A little girl saved me. She saved my life. And then she saved my heart. And every time Lily heard him say it, she would smile proudly, knowing she had found her forever home. As the story comes to an end, Charles often told friends and strangers, if you want more stories like ours, please like and share my videos and subscribe to the channel Kindness Soul Stories. Because sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change the world. And sometimes it saves a life.